So from the issues that you were raising, particularly towards young people, at the position that you're holding now in the Western Youth Forum, President of ActionSA. So, because I'm not sure about the challenge that we're facing is the high rate of unemployment, the education system is not doing well for them, and also teenage pregnancy and so forth. So, as Western Youth Forum regional person, what change do you want to bring, or that you can bring to young people?
Okay. So when I got deployed into this position, I
Guys, welcome to Western Podcast with the Twins in partnership with Umphakathi FM, the station of choice, 90.4 megahertz. Today, one of the leaders of Western ActionSA, Refuwe. Refuwe cure. Like what like Refuwe,
you're not the first. No tongue twister.
Okay, I want to write. Go vendor, Refuwe Tobela. Welcome to Western Podcast Tobela. Welcome to Western Podcast with the Twins.
Well, thank you for having me, Moses. I'm very honored to be here on the platform. I know that you visited the show on many occasions. Become friends of the show, so I'm happy that I could join you guys.
So for the viewers and listeners at home, Baba Satsele Refuwe ke man, just intro. What you to
Refuwe Tobela is a 26-year-old, so I'm very young.
I wanted to
but I'm also a youth leader for ActionSA. I'm actually the regional chairperson of the West End Youth Forum. And so that's the capacity that I'm today.
No, you guys, you created a Western Podcast with the Twins in partnership with Umphakathi FM, the station of choice. You know, how we make
this one I can take you to a journey, but I've grew up in South Africa, so I'm South African, but in different parts, just South Africa in itself, but predominantly Mozambique. So just to sum it up,
bred and born Mzansi.
Bred and born Mzansi, Gauteng in particular. I don't know any other province as well as I know this one, but it's in different regions. So I suppose in my infant to toddler years, equality in the north of Johannesburg. And so I grew up in and so people know in suburbs of Johannesburg. And then so you could say between my infant stages, the toddler stages, and then moved around for various reasons. And then you could say my preteen years. So preteen, you could say around 11 to 15. Yeah, to 15. I left to go to the east of Johannesburg, to an area called Joburg East. So that's where I grew up. I schooled there. I did my high school around there, go high school called Sandringham High School. And then towards the later stages of my preteen years into adulthood, that's where I grew up in the south of Johannesburg. So also between Soweto, and then now that I'm growing up here, I'm based more
and west.
So that's where.
So how you are born and bred in Mzansi?
Well, Lesotho from, I suppose, the paternal. So I live with my family. So my dad's side of the family, go to there. So
what two were there too?
In a
Just
good
go to
yeah, no, to a good way, to a positive.
yeah.
So yeah, keep on to bela, but you need to think actually go to
Lesotho Street. I can run a little to the
yes, no, I could go Lesotho Street, but what's about in the sense that the forefathers and my great parents give on my immigrated to South Africa. Yeah, but legal.
Yeah.
Yes, no, legally so. So basically these are generations that came even before my I could say the generation of my dad and even my grandmother was based. So in fact from both my paternal and maternal side, Bakuleti also yeah, so also way to paternal and Mapedra maternal perspective. But a generation or lineage from my father's side, you'd be surprised. I've seen light skinned so yeah.
No, Refuwe to there. No, inside two and inside two come West End. What's a whole like a man who is trend, West End. Let's go. Refuwe.
Yes.
Your educational level.
Oh, okay.
What's a metric?
No. In fact, Kerata school now. I think it's maybe the person who I am because I suppose maybe if I were to just start it where the love began for school. It's I've always been someone that's very curious about life. I've been curious about people who have made successes out of themselves. So the reason why I'm studying it like this because it will explain why I am going to study what I currently want to do for
a living.
Yeah. So I've actually, this is a fun fact, and I challenge anyone to do this, but it's kind of a challenge. But most millionaires, you'll be surprised, have an LLB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
History.
Yeah, so now if you actually even look at someone like for instance, your Curtis Motsepe, yeah, he's got an LLB degree. If you look at someone like the current CEO, Standard Bank, he's also got an LLB degree. Yeah. So law was then inevitable from that perspective, but it wasn't because of the money. Something must start from somewhere.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, clearly there's something about this LLBK and it's very successful. So let me go and study it. Fast forward, obviously, we always at some point you have to know what you do. So yeah, for those who didn't catch it, so I've got a BCom law undergraduate degree. So it's a blend. I double major in business management and more. And why I studied it like that is because I'm also very inclined in business. I love business a lot. In fact, I want to become one of the emerging business leaders. It's studying like in Tatomasha. So So I want to industrialize as well. But yes, so the reason why I started with that undergraduate is because I wasn't really also sure if I wanted to really pursue law. Because at that time it was very intimidating. And then, okay, all fair and well, I then successfully completed my undergraduate in 2020. And then I had an option to do my honors, either to continue the commerce route or to go into law. But at that point, I think I had already loved the school level. And so I then went to do my LLB for 2 years as an honors. And then, so I currently have a BCom LLB degree. That's what you call it. It's a dual degree. And then I've also at that moment I'm currently pursuing my master's of law in corporate law or business law, which I'm expected to complete it. I think it's starting to look at but in 2026 I should complete.
2026.
Yeah. So
local elections.
it's a big year. Very big year. It's a very big year.
So for the listeners and viewers at home, so what are the difference between commerce and law?
Yes, there is.
So what was the difference?
So commerce is more of, so commerce has several majors. So commerce is got your marketing, it's got your finance, it's got your business, it's got your economics, it's got your accounting, it's got your stats, and it also has taxation. I might be missing one, but those are the modules that make up your commerce. So generally when you start school at undergrad level, you start at a PCOM general, and then at second year you start choosing a discipline. That's when now you then decide which route you want to take.
So law.
Yeah, law is a complete discipline in its own as well. So law is so an LLB degree is a professional law degree. So if anyone wants to become an attorney or an advocate, you have to do an LLB degree. And then thereafter, once you then specialize, you specialize through doing your master's of law. And then you specialize obviously you want a more in-depth understanding and sort of a much more specific sort of approach and understanding of a particular area. Because the law is also very broad. Just to give you a few, we've got corporate law, which is what I specialize in. But you also have labor law, you have real estate law, property tax law, you've got intellectual property law, so there's a lot.
No, I don't get a Refuwe. So to get to my hand, Kazam, but then I get like a check and at least getting as a suit. You could lawyer, most of millionaires, but very LLB. Baba, so as because of your profession and there's the other side as well in politics. So at this age of 26, why did you choose that route?
You know, as I've said, I've always been a curious person, and my curiosity did not just expand on law, on business, on needs, as I've said. But for me, my curiosity is balanced, and I then, as I've been growing up, you identify that, or rather, you come to the realization that politics plays an impact into our lives, whether we like it or not, whether you're in politics or you're not in politics. And I suppose subconsciously, being someone that reads a lot, I would read a lot about, just politics. And I think for me, I started following politics just before, from President Mendy's era. But even at that, I wasn't necessarily, deep into it. But I could read and I could see, who are these people who are always in the news? Why are they so important? But obviously, when I'm being a child, you don't really go that much into that. Well, the interest is not that much. 100%. But when I go to school, particularly 2021, if not late 2020, because I was in student politics. I was actually the student body representative for the law faculty. So I think that was my first taste of politics, because remember when in that body, what we would then do is that we were the voice of the law faculty in itself, and that then came with sort of being lobbyists, advocating for the quality of education that my institution would offer, would deliver, came with, listening to disgruntled fellow students who were in my faculty, and then obviously in saying that, we obviously have to now, liaise with, the programs manager or the faculty manager, and sometimes you even engage with the dean. So that in its own is politics, because it has to do with issues, very critical issues. So I think that planted the seed. And then as I was funny enough, I was actually already a member of ActionSA, because I joined ActionSA in 2020, but not necessarily as an active member. But in 2021, after the post tertiary, I don't know, I suppose then the bug baby then. And then, then obviously now started investing in, politics from the perspective of understanding what it is on all, you would say, spheres of politics. And also, and by spheres I'm talking about obviously the judiciary, which is where I am, my 9 to 5, but also at parliament level as well, which is where laws are made. And parliament also, you could divide it also in 3 levels. In council level, which is local government, legislature level, which is, basically legislature sits in all the provinces, Gauteng, Limpopo, and the rest, West, and the rest. Then the National Assembly, which is now where national laws are set. And then obviously now there's the executive, which is where the president is coming to obviously implement and affect the laws. So luckily as well, because I studied law, we actually do study as well, your Bill of Rights, but also you actually also dissect how these rights are sort of made, and then how these rights are implemented, and how these rights affect citizens when they're not sort of implemented correctly. So that's when I actually got to understand that if you don't actually, understand how this ecosystem works, you're not actually going to now understand how to play your part at whatever level. You don't necessarily also have to be actively involved in politics to make impact, right? But for me, the love began there because I wanted to just play a deeper role in this thing, and particularly because of also I feel like I've been capacitated from an educational background. I feel like this is something that I can do for our people. And lastly, one more thing I realized as well, that there aren't too many young people that are in politics and that are actually at the forefront of politics, and that are known for doing good things within the space. So yeah, the part being then, and those are the several reasons as to why I decided to join.
No, guys, again, Western Podcast with the Twins in partnership with Umphakathi FM, the station of choice, 90.4 MHz. You can say Refuwe today. One of the issues in the do you think young people are interested in politics, and if no, then why? Interestingly, this is not a simple answer, and I'll tell you why. Fortunately, I get to engage with young people in different capacities. On the ground level? At ground level, but also at a professional level, at a social level. So, and I've got to understand that, interest in politics is also shaped by, your perspective. And what do I mean is that I've come to also realize that the more sort of engaged, youth people are, the more far away from politics they are, because their relationship with politics is from a negative place. I don't know if you understand. So their relationship with politics is from a negative place, particularly in areas where, administratively, for example, where a local government does not, perform quite well with delivering services to people. That relationship with politics
no youth in Nigeria, it's almost non-existent, or if they know, but they don't want anything to do with it. And then in your more affluent areas, and in areas where service delivery is there, or with young people that come from either homes that are politically inclined, maybe their parents come from politics 100%, or just from they don't necessarily have to come from politics, but they've been taught and they appreciate politics just from a perspective here that it matters, your vote matters. So I think from that perspective, it's a very hard question for me to say yes and no, but I can answer it from a perspective here for the North and West. I don't entirely feel like politics more than youth is something that is a topic of discussion just from a general day-to-day basis. I don't see that a lot, and I'm saying this because of I'm on the ground, and when we now start talking politics, that relatability isn't there.
Is the problem young people or you, the leaders of parties?
Sure. I think we are both to blame. I think we are both to blame because, we can't deny that, and I'm saying this not necessarily to sort of put blame purely on the failed administration or the previous administration of I'm trying to say that the previous administration that was predominantly solely held by the ANC government, right? And then obviously now we've got a very different dispensation of government, which is the which is a blend of different of different political parties who have now formed a government. That's still relatively new, so it's progressive, it's advancing. So we are monitoring how that's going. But the 6 administrations that have previously governed this country, I truly believe that they failed, and it is not so. And that on its own is one of the contributing factors that have made young people not to care about politics, because they've created a perspective that politics is for all people. It's created a perspective that government doesn't care about young people in particular, and that I also do feel like young people have been marginalized quite a lot. And it's also created a perspective that government only helps the elite few individuals are connected. Always hear these sort of what do they call these phrases? I was studying here. So only those few who happened to be there at that time. We see politics working, or we have seen it work for those people. But for the large majority of our people, politics has not worked, right? And for the youth as well in particular, in the context of this conversation, I don't think politics has worked for them as well. And I can give many examples. Let's look at our education system, for example, which I could say that is one area, all right, where it's past 80 years now since democracy, but since we've been in democracy, or since we've had democracy, but our education system is in shambles, right? And what do I mean? Public schools, right? And I'm just trying to give a diagnosis from my perspective. Public schools are deteriorating one school at a time. The delivery of education, the quality of education just in those schools is declining. And now it's creating an environment where if you take your child to a public school and you expect that child to compete, right, post now at school level, in the corporate world, in business, I really don't believe that child will succeed, because the tools in which they're given for me they're inadequate, right? And then tertiary now, where okay, now obviously you expected that child to go to tertiary, and now it becomes sort of
a
like
different world,
a different playing ground for everyone. And competing with kids that are going to
private schools,
private schools. It sort of creates an unfair competitive advantage for them, right? So that's one. And then two, you then also look at just the access to being in schools nowadays, right? Because now public schools are deteriorating and parents are realizing this, they're now forced to take their children to like modern C schools, for instance, or your what we call it, your Ivy League private schools, for lack of a better word, those are very expensive, right? There's very minimal government intervention to even try and subsidize parents. Even if you do check that so they're able to really afford it, or rather create a sustainable sort of space for yourself to actually take your child most probably safe. Then on top of that, lack, and for me, I mean, in fact, when I started school, luckily I actually got a person. I forgot to mention this, but it's very, very few. In fact, from government itself, it's very, very, very few. So even with those factors, you can tell, and that's just one example. And I'm mentioning school specifically because that is the building stages and the building blocks of a young person. That's where a young person's character gets made. That's where a young person's world gets shaped. That's where a young person learns everything that they need to learn. It's like tools for them to become something. So if those foundational stages are flawed, or they're not sort of built well, then how do you expect that child to make something out of themselves? And I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that imagine how better you could be if you were enabled from that perspective, right? So yeah, and I think maybe this example can just paint a picture where I believe that, or why I believe that the government has failed, and why in particular am I saying that children are now being sort of don't have a good relationship with politics, and I could name a few.
So from the issues that you were raising, particularly towards young people, at the position that you're holding now in the Western Youth Forum, chairperson of ActionSA. So, because I'm not sure about the challenge that we're facing is the high rate of unemployment, education system is not doing well for them, and also teenage pregnancy and so forth. So, as Western Youth Forum regional person, what change do you want to bring, or that you can bring to young people?
Okay. So when I got deployed into this position, I knew that it was not going to be easy, because I think and especially in most townships, there are a lot of prevailing circumstances from your socio-economic point of view, which you've mentioned, drugs, teenage pregnancy, or substance abuse, teenage pregnancy, unemployment, right? And I mean those are prevailing. So and let alone, because also ActionSA isn't yet in government, which we will coming to elections, but we're not yet there. It's also sort of very hard to also sort of implement changes at council level, right? Yeah. So for me, I then sort of took a hard look into the kind of world that I would like to see as a leader. What sort of environment would you like to see for young people? And when I was designing sort of my strategic plan on sort of how I would like to be, or rather, how I would then like to sort of make changes into MS, I then first started looking at skills development, funny enough. And by skills development, I don't necessarily refer to it in the strict sense of the word, by saying, okay, but you look at basic things that young people in the region don't fully or that have since discovered that don't fully comprehend, or maybe they do, but they've sort of not really been deliberate in incorporating and enforcing. One of them, which I've realized, is that young people are very passive with just how they in the region, how they choose to go about their challenges. And by passive I mean like abana matlakatla. So the first thing I normally did, right, when I was on the ground, is to just have simple conversations, just to understand, is that, hey, what's going on, like what are the issues, right? And now you try to now to pick out a common denominator. And the first thing that I realized is that the lack of economic inclusivity, right, is depressing, and also lack of access to opportunities. By opportunities now, right? Those are opportunities to become better people. Okay. So from that perspective, you then realize that okay, now they then resort to the substance abuse, and taking hard drugs to pass time. They take these things to pass time, right? And then they end up becoming addicted to substance because these things are important. So for me, I then said, okay, because we can't wait for government, for me, it's important for me now to actually, and I'm actually have a program that I'm going to start next year to bring certain skills more to more the region. So by skills I mean I want to actually start running workshops, CVIT for young people. Alright, because sometimes a CV can also make or break the opportunities. Just being able to express yourself on a piece of paper is very important. And then I want to, because I've also got my fair share of networks within just the private sector. I want to bring workshops, youth centrics in the region, mainly within the sports and culture, the sports arts and culture space. And by bringing those here, because I know that the region has very rich talent from an arts perspective, I want to see then how I can then nurture that talent for them to become self-sufficient and self-sustainable from commercializing the arts suburb. So I'm actually part, and I'm because of now what you've got paperwork that shows that you're able to gain from weekend to weekend, right? Capacitating them the legality study contract. What do I mean? These young guys now, social media is their oyster, right? So they get a lot of work, believe it or not, online. I've seen this, right? But unfortunately, they still get exploited because of now they don't know how to read the fine print study contract. So if you bring stuff like that, and say, look guys, Uchola, a guy or an influencer, I see that you're able to run things up and down. At least be able to understand this contract you're given. I'm not saying become an expert, but be able to at least be able to sort of fully comprehend the fine lines. What do these clauses mean? So those stuff like that, I think we will be able to become sort of or rather it will be able to make them fully fledged individuals within their respective crafts, and at least they will have them the tools, the toolkits to be able to now become sufficient musicians, right? So that's what I mean to just also answer you quite directly. That's I just wanted to unpack it a bit so you understand what we're doing, right? And then secondly, another thing that I'd like to see is more involvement in politics. Young people, because for them to just sit around,
particularly in government, because we don't see young people there.
But now you have to start
on the ground
level, because now it's pointless to complain. It's pointless to say government so you don't want to be a part of it. That is not the solution. So For me as well, conscientizing them politically, I think it's very important. And you know, actually in those struggle years where politics has to be like violent,
You have to fight.
Understanding politics just has to come from what does local municipalities have to do for us? It's a simple thing that you have to understand. And say, get up at local government, the one monarch seems to be
But touching on that issue, because young people, I've met young people and I've interacted with a few of them, they are complaining that we've been knocking at the doors of our local municipalities, understand, because they are vocal when it's local, when it's elections, to say, to say young people are not coming at our offices and all that we have resources. But they've been saying that Moses, we've been going there, but there's nothing at all. When you get there, they take you from pillar to post, so nothing in action.
So, you know, Moses, that's a very true and valid point, because I also hear that as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's a reason why political parties become powerful. Because why? They're collective. Now, I'm not saying all young people must join politics, but young people, why don't they then organize themselves? From forums, from non-profit organizations, from lobby groups. One voice won't scratch the surface. But if they then organize themselves, if they don't feel they need to join politics, they can organize themselves from an identifiable entity, then we know position and then that way they can then become seen and recognized much better. Because when you then lobby, when you picket, you know, when you have constructive activities that aim to put government accountable, you are most likely to get some. More particularly if now, especially if you now, partner where issues align with political parties as relevant stakeholders, you're able to have much of a bigger voice. I mean, these civic movements are also very important, and we've seen very important civic organizations in our country, such as organizations doing tax abuse, for example. That is a typical example here, a civic organization that's very intentional about, undoing corruption and I'm just using that as an example. But young people can form those kinds of organizations for themselves. They don't have to join politics, but for them to sit back and do nothing about it
and complain
in the current circumstances and prevailing circumstances which don't favor them, I don't think that it's wise. So for me, apart from the skills development initiatives that I try to push, my aim is also to conscientize. And conscientizing them is just to say, guys, you guys have to at least care enough to understand that sitting like this won't do anything. I mean, we're currently sitting as per the quote, the fourth quarter stats from the last time I checked, at 32%. I mean, people will argue that they've decreased, but I mean, decreasing that less than 2%, that's
not much.
On top of that, out of that 32% unemployment rate, just from a national point, you've got 45% young people.
On a provincial level?
No, national, 45%. So there's 32% national unemployment, and 45% of that 32 is young people between the workable ages, I think 16 to 25, right? So we can't just be we can complain. I felt like government but you have to do something, which is why when you ask me initially, who's to blame? I'm saying both parties. Because now when you don't do anything, if I wrong Moses and you don't retaliate constructively, do you expect me to stop wronging? I'm gonna continue. So at some point we need them to also come to the party, and for me that has been my mission to say, guys, if you also then guys don't want to do it, then fine. ActionSA can be the vehicle for that. This is ActionSA's position, and then this is what we intend to do. And one of our founding principles, ActionSA, economic prosperity, where we want an inclusive economy for everyone. And by everyone, I mean across all racial lines and across all demographics. And economic inclusivity incredible to say, guys, we want you to hijack the economy, we want you guys to become better people, we want you guys to make something of yourselves. But to sit like this and not do anything, that never live on anything. Organize ourselves, let's do it together. If you don't want to do it with us, at least understand that this is the position that we feel about young people.
Guys, we're going to podcast with the tweets in partnership with Umpagati FM. Refuwe. Kisa scenario, professional now. You're a young person from different nationality. Maybe clear at a young age. ECD, primary up until to high school. After completing matric, into higher institutions. So, how do you deal with that?
Okay. So,
because all along that in a school and everything can be made. So, I create maybe it was a bazar because of the performance. So now because of the identity book, you can get this bazar. So what's your take on that?
Alright. So obviously because when I permit, then that would entail holding is lawfully in the country. Right. So for me to make sure that I answer the question, I then try to get my position on what's my take on someone who is not who is a foreign national but who's lawful in the country but cannot get an education due to
because of they don't have the ID book.
Look, I think for me, and I can you ask it
at your in my profession.
Look, in my profession, unfortunately or fortunately, and I say this because of people have mixed feelings about constitutionality. But in my profession, as an attorney, constitution is one of my Bibles. And those are laws that we have to follow. And in saying this, access to education is a fundamental right. So a fundamental right, by that I mean that it's a right that is called by virtue of you being in this country, right? You are conferred that right? So in saying that, is that it then would be within my duty, right, to help that person, particularly if as a Colombian school because of being discriminated against. That would be some sort of, or maybe not discrimination, but it would be some sort of prejudice. Because if you hold a permit in South Africa, you are as good as being a citizen because of you pretty much are able to do almost everything, right? So if they cannot access school purely for the basis of a green ID book, then he's being prejudiced. Right, and somewhat being discriminated against, right? But it's another thing now if this person does not have the right because even I would be breaking the law in time to help someone, because I, as a custodian of the law in the legal profession, I'm supposed to now do what? Investigate, apply, and interpret laws. So if you're someone that's coming to me to say to us, I'll get a school like the papers, and I'm essentially helping to break the law. So that I wouldn't do. But in a situation whereby your papers are in order, then it will be within my best interest to try and help you get to school, particularly if a particular institution now you're prejudice administrative law, they said that, then definitely that has to be challenged.
No, Refuwe, too bad. That means I'm visa too bad. I'm visa too bad. Rabona is actually busy economy and also the busy as plaza shops. Now, what's your take on that one?
I think that is a brilliant initiative, and I think it also speaks to the cause, and it speaks to also my passion, my employment here, youth leader, because township economy, honestly speaking, should be for South Africans. I don't think that we should shy away from that perspective. In fact, if you go everywhere else, right? Township economy,
that country.
yeah, I mean, it's normal to go to any country over a local citizen, maybe a street vendor, a sponsorship owner, in an SME, sort of business operator, right? It's a no-brainer. Because
what do you think we got it wrong? Because those sponsorships are foreign dominated.
100%. Yeah. For me, I think we got it wrong because of there's no law in order in South Africa. It's like that.
You are not doing your part as a profession.
I myself, within my profession, I struggle. To give you an example, in fact, I hope I become Minister of Justice and Correctional Services because the Master of the High Court's office is in shambles. I want to go for somebody that's of executive, put a little authority. That place is dysfunctional.
All of each other,
I'm happy that you know. That place. Home Affairs is dysfunctional. And I could name a lot of other institutions. Now, law and order in South Africa is it's impeding on our progress. Now, let's now unpack this thing, right? And I'm saying this from my perspective. Sure, that's a 26-year-old. So, our borders, man. I don't know. We have to unpack this thing. It's layered.
So that people can understand.
Our borders, man. And I think this is an open secret. Our borders have been long. In fact, they're not even borders. They're just fences. Now we've had foreign nationals who are illegal coming into this country. And when they come into this country, obviously they're not formalized. But they must create livelihood for themselves.
And they benefit.
Tons of appeal. Yes. Now what do they do? Batala, Batikis. At a simple level, I mean, and you'd see this go Josie CBD, right? Then from there, because they didn't realize, oh no man, this thing is doable, then they started to organize themselves. Because if you now see how these plaza shops are operated, they operate somewhat like a syndicate because of this thing, they run it so well organized and professional. You could swear only funding or because of now how these people run these things. But in this plaza shop and it scales. It's actually a very interesting model. Now I've observed with my eyes. They take these plaza shops, maybe more area, let's say maybe the first 5 extensions, more or less, I promise you, they all like more or less the same people, right? And then halfway it's about so by organizer, they even have the forums. They even have the forums, whereby by copper, right? Then they combine the resources, right? And then our combined resources, they're able to do what? They're able to get stock. At a bulk. They're able to now get the warehouses. Which is now when mobile example thing. So you can see this thing.
It is illegal value chain.
And who's industrializing is a gentleman like Refuwe, right? But business started from him operating from the back of his car. So we understand if we can then capacitate our spaza entrepreneurs, do you not think one day they can also industrialize? Do you not think that we're going to have those few brilliant minds who are going to come together and say, Majida, Kopansi this spaza shop Savona, let's form a business, right? Charity and offer, I Kopansi, may possibly have one company. Have that one company, let's build a big warehouse. Let's supply other small businesses. Then we will do what? Don't you think at some point it's going to spark one person's idea only, man, guys? surely we can make them. How about remaining fate, where things like the dishwashing soap, things like the toothpaste, things like body matches, things that are sold differently, candles. Don't you think those things can be made more gassy? So what I'm trying to say is that it takes a backing, it takes political will, it takes understanding of a government on what it takes to run a sustainable country and a good economy, to be able to see and have a vision of these things. I mean, our president, right? What Black Lives Matter, incredible story.
Yeah.
Right? If you can understand how he started his business, he mainly was pass a shop because an operator from like a warehouse, factory, like the outsourcer, and then he industrialized his skills, and then he ended up owning a venue chain. Spaza shops is no different if things were to done there, because all it is that it's a mini supermarket, but a visionary or a black South African, even a white South African, doesn't need to be black. I think we should also move away from this thing of can dream bigger and say one day but our owner a mall, but we have to be able to put them there, guys. And you know, for me, this thing spaza shops, they have some cheap economy. It's the issue at the saloon as well. It's the same thing. But also when about it's a magic, that's about well,
literally the saloons and all the foreign.
Thank you. That's what I came over.
And I also share spaza shops and saloons. They're not contributing into like economic development because of, but they're even hiring the foreigners.
Thank you
to work for them.
Thank you, sir. Hence what I'm saying, you know, township economy. You know, I was reading the stats last, and I think this is a publication. I just forgot which institution, but they were saying that, you know, that over 150,000 spaza shops are owned by foreign nationals. 150,000. You know, by the township economy, it's worth about 90 billion. I'm glad you read up on that.
Where all this money is going?
Where is that money?
Is it
going?
regulated, monitored?
No.
That's free.
No. So imagine if now we took charge. That as government, we took charge, and that's what we're seeing is actually said was that so many problems get eradicated. You know, sometimes we want to be too creative. Create opportunities. We want to be too creative. It's simple things like seeing nurturing talent where government operate on thing. I mean, local government should be able to sort of have the kind of stats, release sensors, where it's our sensors, you know, where sensors being used so informative. Sensors, township should be that comprehensive to say, generally, more, in fact, generally, not even generally, but generally, the adults guy, and then we would say, okay, who's capable of working, right? Because surely your municipality, it cannot just have its own traditional ways, collect a revenue, can services. If they can be,
I already provide.
No, but we're not the government, so you cannot say, but we will be, and we will make sure that we collect revenue to make our economy sustainable.
So, in closing, what is your parting words?
Look, my parting words is that township economy is very important, and as ActionSA we will reclaim it. As ActionSA, we are going to make sure that we keep pushing and pressing and lobbying government to put South Africans first when it comes to registrations, that is spaza shops. We are saying that as ActionSA, we restore law and order in South Africa, because we also can have a thriving economy if we still have high levels of crime, high levels of corruption, high levels of maladministration. I'm saying now, as an ActionSA representative, that I would love to urge more young people to join ActionSA in the administration in particular, where I'm the chairperson, so that we can keep pushing these boundaries, right? and making sure that the service delivery. I mean, I was doing an oversight there. All the parking. We've turned into the dumping sites. Where are the sports centers? I heard there's a one sports center more. It's being maintained all fair, but it's not even maintained by government. It's maintained by a company at Ujida. So Chile they deployed go sports arts and culture. Yeah. So those are some of the issues where we are saying, as ActionSA, when we come into government 2026, we want to make sure that we address at local level, and we want to make sure simple things like the sports facilities for the shop, the park, the shop, and the library, the book are up to date. We can't have the books. We need books that actually make sense. No. So we can't have that. We must make sure that the services the shop now to work at the region at large, such as sewer, collected, and I could go on, but all I'm trying to say is that for us, we've got fresh ideas, we're new leadership, we're a new baby in the political scene, and we've got very competent and highly capable leaders who want to bring change, not just more analysts, but national and watch this space.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Western Podcast with the Twins. Guys, please go to Facebook, Western Podcast with the Twins. Follow for more information, subscribe. Go to Western Podcast with the Twins YouTube channel, and also Umpagati FM. Go Facebook for more details. Thank you very much.
Thank you.